We're constantly telling ourselves we're going to start doing something like exercising. How do you motivate yourself to really do it? That's what we're covering today at Live on Purpose TV. So at the first of every year, I get quite a few calls and comments about how do I stay motivated for my New Year's resolutions. You know what one of the number one resolutions is every year? Exercise. You know, because you've made this too, haven't you? Why is it that we feel so committed in January and then by March all of the gym memberships are lapsing and it's hard to just kind of keep ourselves going? Well, there's a lot of reasons for that. And as we get into this topic, think about this as a general discussion about human motivation, because if we can motivate ourselves to exercise, what else could we motivate ourselves to do? And you've got all those other goals. So this could apply to those as well. So the two primary human motivators are, first, pleasure. You know where I'm going, right? Pain. We're not going to deny it. Pain is a real part of life. I love the way Tim Hansel put this. He said, pain is inevitable. Misery is optional. Love that. That's another discussion. Pleasure and pain are the two primary human motivators. In other words, everything that we do is somehow tied back into seeking and obtaining pleasure or avoiding and managing pain. Now, of the two, pleasure and pain, which do you think most people would say is the most powerful in changing our behavior? See, I'm an eternal optimist. I'm pathologically positive, as you know. I used to hope that it was pleasure. It's pain. It's pain. Your mind will do more to avoid pain than it will to seek pleasure. I think it's a survival kind of a thing. But pain is the more powerful of these two motivators. Okay, now let's come back to that in just a minute. On the two rows, we're going to put two options. You can either change your behavior or not change. So can you think of any other options? That's pretty much it. So either you're going to change the way you've been doing things or not. In terms of exercise, either you're going to change and start exercising consistently or not and keep doing what you've been doing. Those are your only two options. Now, here's where this gets fun. I've put this in a quadrant system because whether you change or not, you will have pleasure and pain. You get to have both either way. Connect with the truth of that for a minute. So let's take a look at what might be in each of these boxes. Let's say that you were to actually change and start exercising consistently like you've been promising yourself you would. What pleasure would that bring into your life? What goes in this box for you? Do you realize that exercise beats antidepressant medication in the clinical trials? It's more effective than medication for managing things like depression and anxiety. It's huge. And that's because of the neurochemistry and the fitness and how you feel. All of that stuff comes into it. It's powerful. You've got a lot of really great reasons. Increased health, better relationships, you look better, you feel better, you got more energy. That's all the pleasure you get if you make that change. Okay, connect with that. Now let's go here. What is the pain that comes into your life when you make that change? Yeah, these are all the reasons, the excuses maybe that you give for why you're not doing it. Short version, it's hard. It is. It is hard. You got to get out of bed. You got to go to the gym. There's usually a cost involved. At the very least, it costs your time and energy, but there might be fees that you have to pay for gym memberships. You might have to purchase some new clothing to work out in. I don't know. There's going to be costs. It's hard. All right. And you get soreness too, right? I mean, there's some real physical pain that can happen. So if you make that change, you're going to have some pleasure. You're going to have some pain. Now let's go down to the not change option. What is the pleasure that comes into your life if you don't change? You get to avoid all the hard stuff, don't you? Yeah. You get to, you don't have to pay the gym fees that you would have to pay up here. You get to sit on the couch. You get to enjoy some indulgence in your diet or your activities. I mean, now you might think, well, that's not that pleasurable. Well, it kind of is, actually. All that avoidance, all of that indulgence, it's kind of pleasurable. And that's the pleasure you get to have if you don't change. Short version, it's easy. Easy. Doesn't take any effort. All right, let's go over here. What is the pain you're going to have if you don't change? And get real about this, folks. Really, it's the opposite of everything that we put in this box. Instead of health, you get to have illness or disability. You're going to pay for your health now or later, right? And if you don't make that change, what's going to happen to your health, to your relationships, to your energy level? You know all of this stuff. Put it in the box. Now, I said earlier that pain is the more powerful of these two motivators. What that means is if the pain of change, this box, looks greater to you than the pain of not changing, you won't change. You can't. Your mind won't let you because it's trying to protect you from additional pain. If this pain looks greater than that pain, you won't change. Even if you've got all these great reasons to do so. What if that were switched? What if the pain of not changing were greater than the pain of change? Then you'd have to change. Your mind would support you to change. There's a couple of brain hacks that I can give you about that. But just tune in with that for a minute. As long as the pain of change looks greater than the pain of not changing, you won't change. Now, here is the mental hurdle that I want you to see. When do you get to experience the pleasure of change? Do you get it right up front? No, you get a little portion of it. You feel good about making the decision. But most of that pleasure comes later. When do you get to experience the pain of making that change? That's right up front, isn't it? This is now. You pay up front. You get the soreness now. You get the fitness later. Do you see what I'm saying? When do you get to have the pleasure of not changing? Oh, it's now. When do you get to have the pain of not changing? I mean, most of it. The bulk of it. The disability and early death. That's all. Later. That is what I call a mental hurdle that you have to overcome because your mind will always see now pain as greater than later pain. Now, when we make a commitment to ourselves to change, to start exercising, for example, notice this. We always leave a little back door open just in case, right? I mean, we tell ourselves, I'm going to do this, and then we leave a little back door open in case it gets hard. We can kind of escape out that back door. I've had several clients just in the last year where we manipulated their pain by having them write me a check. And anybody who's watching, you can send me a check if you want to. I will be your accountability partner. Sometimes you need one, okay? Hire a coach or get someone in your family or a friend that you can have an accountability partner. Anyway, they would write me a check, $1,000 for example, against their promise to exercise 3 times a week for 3 weeks. That's just an example. I still remember this young mom who wrote me the check. She was smiling as she wrote it. My part of the agreement is I'll hold your check for the 3 weeks. You'll go out and do what you promised yourself that you'd do. You're not promising me. This is for you. It's not about me. I promised to hold your check for 3 weeks, and then you get to check in with your accountability. Did you do it or did you not do it? And either you keep your commitments to yourself or you make a story about it. And I'm not saying the story's not true. It might be. Some stories are really interesting and true. But it's still a story. Either you keep your commitment, or you tell a story about it. So if you kept your commitment, I'll return your check. You get to do whatever you want to with it. If you did not, I will cash it and use it to my own purposes, not towards your account. What do you think happens here to your pain? What we just did is made the pain of not changing greater, by $1,000 in this case, than the pain of change. And we brought it to the now. It's simply a brain hack. She went home and exercised for 3 weeks, 3 times a week, 30 minutes, good aerobic exercise. She came back feeling awesome about herself and her ability to keep her commitment to herself. Was it the check? No. It was she got real about her pain. And we manipulated it a little bit. But honestly, this is where the real value is. The pleasure of change is real. The pain of not change is real. It's just delayed. And that's the hurdle that we get to overcome. So in motivating yourself to exercise or do anything else, get real about your why. If you have a strong enough why, you'll figure out the how and overcome those mental hurdles that we have about now and later. Hopefully that helps as you look at fulfilling this commitment to yourself and others that you've made. So maybe now you will start exercising. You'll get out of your own way and realize what motivates you for whatever it is that you've committed yourself to do. I'm Dr. Paul. This has been Live on Purpose TV.